for joining us on the Right-of-Way Report, a podcast by Pike-Off OTA. You can join us here every Monday morning at 10 a.m., where we will bring you updates on legislation, litigation, and landowner information.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's a nice day. It's been a busy weekend. It feels like it's Monday, just like that again. I don't know how that happened.
Right? I get it. It's been a busy weekend, and it seems like it was a busy week last week with legislation. So I'm hoping you're going to fill us in on that today.
Yeah, it was a busy week of frustration for the citizens because the entire system is broken. I am at a loss for how to fix it except for sunlighting. So I'm going to be very transparent today, and I'm going to tell you everything that all the legislators told me or tried to excuse their behavior from last week. And you're going to get it quoted. And we're going to talk a lot about why it's so important to have a lobbyist up there at all times, because there was an amendment filed that we'll talk about in detail 17 minutes prior to the 2-minute discussion on the floor. And I want you to hear the 2-minute discussion on the floor because it's disgusting. And I can't even believe that our government works like that. Well, no, I can believe that the government works like this, but being inside of it and trying to fix it for the citizens, I don't understand why the citizens always come out on the wrong end of the spectrum. So we got not a very long show probably, but a pretty detailed show and a lot of different links for you to check out. So looks like Kelly, are you frozen?
I think I'm frozen. Can you hear me at least?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, we'll just leave it frozen. I'm not going to worry about it because it's just going to keep doing it. For some reason, my camera is having technical difficulties. It was having issues on a Zoom the other day as well. So we'll just leave it blurred. No problems whatsoever. And I'll be here if you need me. Okay. I don't have anything for today anyway. So
and ask me questions if I'm skipping over parts, because I know this pretty well, and I want to make sure everybody can understand what's going on. So for everybody out there, it only looks like there's 12 people, 4 on Facebook and some more on YouTube, but the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority is legislatively authorized, meaning that in 1947, they went to the legislature and authorized the existence of the Turnpike Authority to build one turnpike from the Turner Turnpike from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. And then in 1954, they said, oh my goodness, what? Revenue bonds are awesome. And it's a great way to make money. And so, and build roads. So we're going to do it again. So they went back to the legislature and had them authorize 2 more, the Will Rogers and the H.E. Bailey. And this went on for a while, and it was 1 road, 1 bond. And then the citizens had a vote on that in 1954 to say that was okay. And then in 1955, the legislature took the citizen vote and changed it and said, oh, instead of 1 bond, 1 road, we're going to allow cross pledging, which allows you can build any road you want and then use the system turnpikes to pay. And they did that for everyone, for every turnpike, except for the Turner was still on its own. And then the Will Rogers was on its own. But they started to bundle it. And then 1966, they bundled some more. And they went on and on and on. And right now there's 35 location authorizations. Now, some of them are toll exchanges and interchanges that don't even need to be in statute. And so when we got thrown this crazy train of 59 miles of turnpikes coming through our location, and we started looking into the statute, we realized that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority didn't have location authorization for the southern extension because the one that they wanted to use was built already through the H.E. Bailey, and all of the bonding information was very clear in the H.E. Bailey spur the H.E. Bailey Spur bond documents that the authorization number 28 was really the H.E. Bailey Spur. And so, but then also on the East-West Connector, there was a one bond issue and one bond indenture stipulation by Henry Bellman from the 80s that they had to build 4 turnpikes at the same time with one bond issue because he wanted his pet projects, the Chickasaw, that's the Davis to Henrietta little 13-mile stick, and he wanted the Creek and the Cherokee and the Kilpatrick to all be built at once. And he knew that if he didn't bundle them, that they would forget about the Cherokee and they'd forget about the Chickasaw and they just focus on the Kilpatrick. So on a political move, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, he created this, it was not a poison pill, it was a smart political move. He said, OTA, you need to build all of it. You either do it once or you don't do it at all. So what the OTA, they couldn't afford to do it. And so they went back to the legislature and they said, you need to take this out of statute. You need to take this section 1705F out of statute and let us build each one of these individually. And the legislature was like, no. Henry Bellman wants you to be able to build them all at once, and you have to do it all at once. And so they built those 4, but they didn't build them completely. And then over the next 2 decades, they went back to the bond market several times, even though it was illegal, but no one called them on it because it's not in statute. Again, it's not required for them to go to the state Supreme Court for bond validation. They only have to go to the Council of Bond Oversight, which is a complete joke, and that's a topic for another day. But there's all these things. So they went back several times, and I don't remember the exact amount of bond issues that they did, but they were only supposed to go back once. So we sued them in 2022 and said, you can't build the East-West Connector because you were supposed to build that at one time back in 1987 when you started the Kilpatrick. And the Supreme Court said, yep. 3 of the justices said, yeah, you're right. But we haven't really said that they had to do that for the last 2 years, so we're just going to let them do it again. And I bring this up because the OTA knows that they are hanging by a thread, and they are in the legislature trying to get that section 1705F struck out at any cost. They do it last minute with 17 minutes left to go, and no citizen has looked at this bill. It's a cook deal, and the 170F, this section got put back in. And so that's like the 3-minute backstory of what happened. So I want to share my screen, and I want to show you what we're talking about. Senate Bill 80. And Senate Bill 80 started out as, it was pretty positive for the citizens. And after that 17-minute last minute amendment that struck all of the language and substituted an entirely different bill in, was not good for us. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna show you what's happening. So, and who knew that the legislature worked like this? Not me. So here we go. Share my screen. The important thing to know is that we don't know who's telling us the truth or what's happening, but we're just trying to do the best we can to make sure that no bad bill gets put in for the into law. Okay, here we go. So you should be seeing a map right now. And what Senate Bill 80 it was intended to do was to remove all of these existing authorizations from statute that have been in there for decades and put a clause that says any new location authorization that is approved by the legislature has a 5-year sunset. So you can put it in 2025 and it sunsets in 2030 if it hasn't been put through into the design phase. Okay, so the interesting part about this bill, though, you have to understand is that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority agrees with us, and they wouldn't do this by themselves, but since we were pushing this, they're like, yeah, this one's infeasible, and they wrote several documents over the last 4 years that we've gotten through open record requests that have said these particular routes are infeasible or will not be built because of low traffic. Okay, so that's what this bill is about. So if you're looking at your screen, you can see that there's these lines, and I'm going to just go down through them and read you what they said about these location authorizations. And then I'm going to give you the link to the Substack so you can understand this more deeply, because you have to when you listen to the floor discussion or the committee discussion, it's 2 minutes and it doesn't say anything. It says, we're just cleaning up statute. It doesn't say anything about what happened. So for example, I guess we'll go in numerical order. So when we wrote this, we wanted to strike out several. So we are striking out, and I won't even go over the numbers, which were interchanges, but for example, we struck out an interchange on the Muskogee Turnpike and a toll gate on the Turner Turnpike because the OTA said they weren't going to build them anyway. A toll gate on the Will Rogers. But the ones that we were going to strike out is, like, look at number 11 up by Tulsa. So the OTA describes this particular location authorization. For example, it's supposed to be a turnpike beginning at the point of vicinity in Ponca City or at a point on the Kansas-Oklahoma state boundary, east of the Arkansas River and west of the point where Oklahoma State Highway 18 intersects the state boundary line, etc. So they said State Highway 11 has several areas to be widened in the ODOT 8-year plan. State Highway 18 is an unapproved from the Kansas state line to the intersection. And they say it's State Highway 20 is 4-laned to the intersection with US 75. So unnecessary. Number 11 is unnecessary. So 11 we struck that out, for example. Number 12 is right in the middle of the city. And number 12 was an Oklahoma City toll expressway system connecting residential, industrial, and the state capitol complex in the north part of Oklahoma City. And they said for this one, is completed with other improvements. And so it's not feasible. So we got rid of 12. So you can understand that we're trying to get rid of all these little ones that are not going to be feasible and that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority agrees with. Let's see, 13, if I can go back. You see where 13 is all along the eastern part of Oklahoma from the top, Miami, all the way down. And they said that US 59 fits within the 30-mile limitation, is mostly a Super 2 with a few 4-lane sections. I-49 on the Arkansas side provides a route to the east, so it's infeasible. So this one is gone away. But now look at number 14. So 14 is down here between I-35 and Velma, I think. They say State Highway 7 is a Super 2 with a few 4-lane sections from Velma to I-35. But one of the representatives got up and said, I want a turnpike there. You can't strike that out. So an amendment was made to leave number 14 in, even though they say that the Turnpike Authority has no inkling to build it. They said this is already State Highway 7, not a feasible turnpike. Okay. And then you go on and we strike a few more. We strike 15. It's up here northwest of Oklahoma City. We're striking a couple toll gates. And then we go down. Okay. So number 25 is going to be struck. Where's 25? It's up here near Tulsa, northwest of Tulsa. So the representatives didn't have a problem with that. They let us strike that. They kept it it was stricken from the record. And that was, it says, ODOT has some highways that serve this area, not a feasible turnpike. So then the representatives started saying, okay, you can't strike any more out. So they wanted to keep, we wanted to strike out 27. You see where 27 is along the southern part of the state? Representative Dempsey and a few others got up and started yelling about they needed more roadways down there. And literally, this is US 70. So you can see 70 there. It's all the way across. And OTA says it's not a feasible turnpike. So the representatives are detached from reality. That's nothing new. You knew that. 14 or 28, that's the one that they say is a southern extension. We want to strike out 29. Look at where 29 is. 29 is over there in the western part of the state. The representatives want to keep that up, even though it's right. It parallels US 283, literally parallels 283, and it's a low volume state highway. And OTA says they'd never build it. The representatives want to keep that one in. So okay, fine. We let them do that amendment. Now look at number 30. 30 goes from Enid out to Woodward. That's literally US 412. And the Turnpike Authority has already said in 2 of their documents, not feasible, we're not building it. Okay, so the representatives now have gotten back 14, 20, what did I say? 14, 27, 29, and 30. Okay, no problem. Leave them in, it doesn't hurt me. It's okay. You want that in? That's fine. I think it should be out because it's not going to be built anyway, but that's good. And then the amendment that they put in said they took out all mention of the sunset. So nothing about 5 years after being built, nothing. They took it all out. And then what they did, which was nuts, I'll show you the, I'll move this back over so I'll show what they did. Was they came down here, they amended it, and I want you to see the amendment. The amendment was filed at 11:43 a.m. and the discussion happened at 12:11 p.m. that same day. And look at what they did. By deleting the content of the entire measure and by inserting in lieu of thereof the following language, they struck the entire bill and put all this nonsense that I was just talking to you about in. But we didn't really care about these location authorizations that they put back in, but what we cared about was that they came down to 1705F and took out the language that got them in trouble in the Supreme Court. Well, it should have gotten them in a lot of trouble. They shouldn't be able to build the East-West connector, but they want to take that out, just like they wanted to take it out in 1988, just like they tried to take it out last year in language. And they wanted to put this in. So they want to take this language out that says they don't have the one bond issue for all of it, which means that we would have no more recourse to go to them in the Supreme Court to build any more sections of the outer loop. And you know they're going to go through Washington. You know they're going to come up through Mustang again. So this is what protects the citizens. They should have done this, 1987. And so this is what they did. So we get the call that this happened. And I guess before I go any further, I want to show you what happened that day.
You're recognized. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, members, Senate Bill 80 is a cleanup bill, simply removing a handful of turnpikes that have been on the books for the last 30, 40, 50 years. That have been kind of deemed unnecessary at this time. And I yield for questions. And
okay, it's not just a bill that takes out the turnpikes. He forgot 2 major things: that the amendment removed the sunset clause, and it allowed the Turnpike Authority to build at will anywhere around the metro at any time, whenever they want, because that clause in 1705F was stricken out. Literally nobody in this room had even read the amendment. This is nuts that you're not supposed to read the amendment word for word and have these people vote on it. They had no idea what they were doing. Even people that are on our side typically voted yes for this because they hadn't read the amendment and it was not explained well. And this is, I think this is malfeasance. I don't even know how this is not illegal to explain what's happening, but apparently I'll read you a text. This is politics as usual. So keep listening.
And move for passage.
Thank you, Representative. Would you agree that this bill does not make anyone completely happy, but does make sure that everyone did get something, thus a good consensus was made?
Yes, I would agree with that. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, this bill has gone through a number of revisions.
Baloney. I'm telling you, this is nuts. And we didn't even hear about these amendments. This makes me so angry when I listen to it. This is like the 5th time I've listened to it. And I can't even believe this is allowed to go on. Okay, it doesn't make anybody happy. We, the people, don't care that they're removing toll gates and interchanges from statute that aren't even supposed to be there. If they remove the one sentence that location authorizations have to be sunset after 5 years or 7 years or whatever, it doesn't matter what they remove from the location authorizations. So it's a completely moot point that it's posturing that they think they're doing something for the people when in reality they're completely screwing us. So keep listening.
Getting to where we are today, and those revisions have been painful, but everybody is at a spot where they are going, this is a good, very good step forward, and we'll take it from here. So thank you for bringing that
Would there
up.
be any further questions? Chair sees none, having a do pass and a second. Will there be discussion or debate?
See how fast the do pass came in a second? This is how they jammed through that. The guy who's running this, Brian Hill, is terming out and he's going on to another, he's failing upwards. He's going on to another bigger elected official position. He does not care about the ramifications of this bill. Obviously, he filed the amendment 17 minutes before. He approved it. And then he takes one question, or he asks himself the question, is everybody going to be happy about this? And then someone makes a motion for a pass and someone seconds it, and then they vote. Here we go.
Chair sees none. Clerk, please open the queue. Hill, aye. Adams, aye. Miller, aye. Chair is preparing to close. All are accounted for. Declare the vote.
11 ayes, 0 nay.
With 11 ayes, 0 nay, we will declare your bill out of committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
So, I mean, I got this phone call when I was sitting watching my daughter throw discus at a track meet. I had no idea. We tried to get the amendments. We had been tipped off that there was going to be an amendment the night before, but I couldn't find the amendment. Amendments are supposed to be available to view 24 hours before they're discussed. I'm not really sure how a 17-minute time frame is legal, but then, okay, so how do you hold anybody accountable for bad behavior? That's the frustrating part. And so if this bill passes, so I'll read you what I got from one of the legislators when I said, this is ridiculous. How can you even, how did you get permission from the Senate author to do this? How can a House member make that big of an amendment that goes so far away from the original intent of the law without permission from the original author? So I get this back. It was this or a dead bill. I would have rather a dead bill. Okay. There are more players involved in the legislative process than just you and the OTA. The final amendments didn't come from the OTA. They came from Chairman Hill. Now tell me this. How could Chairman Hill know anything about Section 1705F if he didn't get that language from Michael Thompson or Bobby Stem or somebody else that was up there doing the OTA's deeds for them? How did they know that that specific section in an 18-page bill needed to be stricken out? Tell me that. There's no way he did that. Senator Standridge worked out the language with him without OTA in the room. This is politics. There are bills that get run and bills that get passed. This just got passed 9-0 and will get passed off the floor. Last week, this bill was dead because Chairman Hill refused to hear it. You just got, as in he's talking to me, you just got 10 of the 18 turnpikes you wanted taken out of statute. You can be grateful for that, or you can be exceptionally disappointed in what you didn't get. Ha! I responded. I'm not going to read you my response, but in general, what I said was, the sunsets are moot since the OTA agreed that those routes were infeasible anyway. Why can't politics ever favor the citizens? And some other more strongly worded things that I said. But it's ridiculous that someone would think that this bill was acceptable to the citizens of Oklahoma while giving OTA everything they want and stuff they don't even care about. That's crazy. So we are on the offensive right now to kill this bill. But I'll tell you that Senator Standridge, after a lot of pushback from us, she has agreed. She's trying to get a representative to run an amendment when it goes to the House floor, because they said it's going to pass. The OTA wants it. It's going to go like this. So we can get an amendment to reverse all of this nonsense that they did. Then she can approve it when it comes back to the Senate. But I just want to reiterate how fast things can go bad. When you open up a statute and a section, people can put things in last minute and poison your pill. So we had poison your bill. We had a great eminent domain bill 2 years ago that was right of first refusal. And right at the last minute, the OTA put in, and their minions put in the line that says, before right of first refusal will kick in, the state agencies are allowed to swap land. And we didn't even see that amendment. So then we had to go around trying to kill the bill. It was our bill. We had to try to kill it. And people were thinking we're crazy, but they didn't understand at the last minute, they totally changed the whole point of the bill. And so we will let you know what we need you to do once we figure out when this is going to be heard on the House floor, because we have to send them a barrage of information. We have to send them a barrage of people saying, you need to put this amendment in. You need to make sure that you're protecting the citizens, because it was again a crazy Thursday, Friday, trying to get people to understand, because they have 8,000 bills up there. They're not in the minutia like we are. We have already been to state Supreme Court. We have the state Supreme Court minority agreeing with us, saying about what has to stay in statute if we are to have a chance at them again. And so we know what they want to do. And so I wanted to, let's see, where's my Substack. So I'll share my screen again, and I'm going to link you to this Substack so you can read. So the claim to number 2 for relief at the state Supreme Court, it says that they needed to fund, like I said, the Chickasaw, the Kilpatrick, the Creek, and the Cherokee all as one bond issue, and finance, constructed, and operated under one bond indenture. And I talk about the history of this. And then we have a great researcher that goes up to the archives and finds minutes from the 80s and found information that was we could bring to the Supreme Court to say the legislative intent was actually they had to be built together. And this is the where they want to strike it out. They want to strike out 1705F that says, provided that any bonds issued for the construction of the proposed turnpike referred to in subparagraphs 10, 20, 21, and 22, a paragraph E of this section shall be issued as one issue for all 4 of the proposed turnpikes and shall be financed, constructed, and operated under one bond indenture. So we found newspaper articles that said Henry Bellman wanted to make this all happen at one time. The 1987 legislature approved building of all 4 toll roads, including the Oklahoma City Turnpike, but only if part or all of the 4 roads were built at the same time. So here's the newspaper clipping from 1988. And then we found a resolution from the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority that said they tried to get the legislature to change it, but they wouldn't do it. So the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority respectfully requests the legislature amend the existing law to allow funding and construction of individual projects. So they're telling the legislature, get rid of that. But the legislator refused to make that change. And then they talk a little bit more about Mr. McCaleb, who was the Secretary of Transportation, the Director of ODOT, and the Director of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, said that the legislature adjourned without taking any affirmative action on the request passed by this authority to amend the legislation to remove such a debt which ties all 4 of the proposed facilities together. So they needed to figure out if there wasn't some new alternative that would make the financial feasibility more attractive. You know what that alternative was, Kelly? She on? Oh, she might be frozen. The alternative was to just forget about the law and just do what they want to do because they didn't think the citizens would catch it and call them back on it. So they almost won this when the Kickapoo, they had citizen watchdog Jerry Fent took them to court on the 1705F violation, but he took the wrong legal angle and he lost in 2016. That's why the Kickapoo got built. But honestly, even if he had made the perfect argument, he most likely would have lost anyway because the deck was stacked. But so what I'm saying is we're not going crazy when we're saying that they keep trying to get this language out in any way possible. And the legislators have no idea what's going on because they don't follow this as much as we do. But I think it's really important for everybody to understand what's going on, and you have to stay connected. And oh, by the way, so I have another Substack about all of the location authorizations. And did you know that Representative Tedford and Senator Blair from Tulsa managed to take a shell bill, put their language in, and get an authorization change, the location authorization changed? I'll show it to you in a second. Where is it? Number 32. They want a new bridge in the vicinity of Bixby across the Arkansas River. And so they changed this number 32 location authorization. You know how many days it took them to get from shell bill to actual in the second chamber's house, the second chamber's floor? Like 14 days. So they are already almost to law by changing this number 32. And what they're doing is they're taking out the sentence that said, the project shall commence upon a determination by the OTA that such bridge shall be self-sufficient at some point over a 30-year time period from the toll charges associated with the bridge project. So you can say right here that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority says this is an unbuilt bridge and it's not a feasible turnpike bridge. So how they made it feasible was take out the fact that it's going to be free to the people after 30 years. And that's going to make it that'll be law. So they tried to piggyback on our bills and put their amendments in our bills, but they didn't need it. They just needed a shell bill to run it. And the OTA wants it and everybody wants it, and they can get their bill through in plenty of time. So it's been a super frustrating 4 years in session, to be honest, but I was flabbergasted that I should feel happy that we got 10 things taken out of statute, I think, or 10 location authorizations. And my response back was, several committee members voted yes without fully understanding what was in the amendment because they didn't have time to review it. It wasn't a simple tweak, like you said. It was a complete rewrite of the bill, and they should have been clearly told that and given adequate time to evaluate it. And if someone wants to dismiss it as politics as usual, then the usual needs to change. I don't know. I don't really know how much more we can say about what's going on up there, but I guess all we can do is just vote. But we need good people that aren't willing to get bought and actually that are intelligent enough to understand what the heck is going on. And when they're getting played as useful idiots, and their love of power is so much greater than their love of doing what's right. Because honestly, I say this at work too, like no graduate student is better than a bad graduate student because they take up all my time. And no bill is better than a bad bill, 100%. So I don't think he understands the intent. And I don't even understand, again, someone needs to pop in and tell me, if you are the owner of a bill and you make it and it goes to the other house, do you lose control of it? It seems like people lose control and then all these amendments are made and then it comes back. So I don't know, you would think you would have a partnership, not an adversary. So I'm not really sure what happened with that, but I've never seen that happen before on our bills where it goes to the other house and gets completely rewritten to the detriment of us. So it was an exciting week in the legislative arena, and it just points out why we need somebody up there. We have people up there a lot, but they're not up there full time, and we just don't have the bandwidth to be able to follow the amendments when they're only 17 minutes. We do a fantastic job writing our bills and working with the ethical and I guess truthful legislators, but man, you can get really messed up if you miss an amendment or you let it. I guess we didn't let the amendment go through, it just did. Even if we were up there, I don't know what we would have done, but it's pretty frustrating to get after the fact and know that there was only a 2-minute discussion on a amendment that had been filed 17 minutes prior. And so we are going to need, like I said, we're going to need your help on either killing this bill, or if we get the amendment through, if we can get the amendment filed, we're going to need some help telling everybody in the House, like not just the committee members, everybody, all, or there are 100 members. We're going to need to tell them what the dealio is, that they need to vote for the amendment or we're going to kill it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So, it feels to me like it was misrepresented when it was presented to the committee for a vote. When they basically said there aren't any changes, it's just, striking or whatever. Why don't they go into more detail? Do you know why they don't go into more detail and explain these things?
I don't, and we had the same issue a couple of weeks ago when I put up those clips when Senator or Representative Sterling stood up and said, "Oh, we're just tweaking the bill," and then no one asked him questions about anything relevant. They just went off on how bad the USPS was about certified mail, and so they don't even read them. They just say the amendment is on page 21, line 5. And then they don't read what the intent is. I think that they should change the rules to make it mandatory that, first of all, there's a 24-hour period for any amendment. And then they have to have a 2-sentence or 3-sentence description of what the amendment actually does.
A gist, perhaps?
Yeah, a gist. Because it's just... if it's not my area, so I can understand eminent domain bills and transportation bills and environmental bills pretty easily, but if you threw me a insurance bill or Medicaid bill or something I wasn't really familiar with, I would need some time to understand what it was trying to say. And I've only ever seen one legislator read every bill and excuse me, Representative Rick West has a binder and he has everything printed out and he literally reads the bills and he goes, "Amy, I can barely get through all these bills because they put 40, 50 bills a day. And if they don't give me 24 hours then I just vote no. If I haven't read it, I just vote no because I have no idea what's in it." He won't vote for it unless he truly understands it. And so I wish that other people would be like that. Or even like, if I was in that committee, I would have raised my hand and been like, What is the amendment? Why was it filed 17 minutes ago? Like I would feel like I would just want to ask more questions. And I don't know why these representatives and senators aren't willing to just slow it down and figure out what's going on so that the citizens are well aware, because then we could get a text. Like, I wish I would have gotten a text. Hey, is this amendment okay? I didn't even know there was amendment. Like, I literally had checked the morning before I left, and I didn't even know. And so there has to be, when Kyle Hilbert hopefully goes away and they get somebody else in there, and we can get somebody to put real rules in, like not a dual committee. They have to read the amendments. I wish that we would make it clear what amendments are, because there's some serious games going on right now, because they're trying to rush. And you know what happens when you rush, you make mistakes. And so they're doing it on purpose, because they're rushing for the agencies. They're not rushing to protect the citizens, in my opinion.
Well, it seems to me that this is something maybe citizens should be reaching out to Hilbert and letting him know that this is not the best way to represent the people. When you are putting our legislators on the spot to understand an amendment that was made so close to the time of the vote, and yet nobody explains it, that just is, there's just so much lacking in the transparency there. I think maybe this would be maybe we just try to educate him. Maybe that would be good for citizens to call in and, I don't know. And then I had another question for you as well. So did you said Standridge was the one who read this? This was SB 80, right? So
Correct.
Was Standridge aware of what the amendment was?
Good question. Someone's throwing someone under the bus, because when I asked that, it said, Representative Stairs said that Lisa Standridge worked with Chairman Hill without the OTA in the room. But why would she do that? Because we told her explicitly for the last 2 years that of why that section was so important to her constituents specifically. And we told her that they're planning on doing the entire loop. Like, people down in Washington are buying all that land and all that stuff. They're going to get run over too. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And Blanchard and up and through to, they want to try to connect it up to the Kilpatrick on the west side. So they want to come off right on Johnson Road. So right where the southern extension is supposedly to come in Purcell, they want to extend that on the other side and go up there. You can almost see it, and you can draw it on a map, And so this fight is not over, and we've I don't know. And then she says she didn't know, and that Stairs just took it upon himself to listen to what Brian Hill wanted to do. And then, we have our people up there, and they said that they, saw Michael Thompson and some other lobbyists coming out of Brian Hill's, office saying, okay, and telling Joe Kelly from the Turnpike Authority, okay, it's done. It's okay. It'll be okay. Like, they had the fix in,
Well, so let's back up just a smidge, and let's look at the language that was used. They said the OTA was not in the room. Well, Joe Kelly wasn't in the room, and nobody directly employed by the OTA was in the room. But that doesn't mean that people who advocate on their behalf were not part of that conversation. And it sounds to me like perhaps Thompson and who did you say the other person was?
Bobby Stem, maybe. I only know about Michael Thompson, because he's if people don't know, he's the lobbyist for the engineering consultants. So he lobbies on behalf of a large professional engineering organization. I happen to be a professional engineer. I don't agree with a lot of the lobbying they do. But
so the devil is always in the details, and this is why it's so important that our lawmakers and our citizens are educated to the fullest extent, because little nuances like that mean so much. Mm-hmm. You and I saw right through that. Okay, obviously the OTA guys were not sitting in the room, but their representatives were. Yeah. So, and why weren't I mean, why didn't Sandridge feel the need to, if she was there, maybe, I don't know, maybe she was completely unaware of what happened, but it just seems strange to me that no one reached out to the citizen side.
Yeah, why didn't Representative Stairs be like, "Hey, Amy, I know you've never told me a lie before. Can you, like, what's the dealio with this amendment?" Well, he did the same thing to me on the bill that I wrote on 3453. He just arbitrarily changed it and negotiated out oil and gas and railroads and natural gas for the eminent domain thing. And I was like, dude, like, are you going to, you can't just change things. I thought what do you call the protocol? The protocol was that you go back to the original bill writer and ask them what they think about these changes. And then I could have been like, you know what? I'm not comfortable with that. Why don't we pull the bill? Like, why do the legislators think that they can just like change whatever they want for us? But every time the agency writes a bill, they're like, oh, what do you want to do? ODOT, what do you want to do? OTA, what do you want to do? Oil and gas, what do you want to do? Like, I know we don't have the billions of dollars that those other people have, but I still think it's just unethical to not.
So my personal opinion on that is that government always supports government. So that's exactly what we have here. The government agency comes in and says, this is what we want. And so, of course, the legislators are like, oh, that's what they want. We're government, they're government, we're on their side, right? We're going to support government. And this is also why it's so important that our bills are vetted, that they are well thought out, that everybody who's voting on them understands what they are. Because when you get legislation passed, it's there forever. It takes an act of Congress, essentially, to get anything removed. And so we just have to be very careful. And this is why it's so stressful for me to try to read through all these bills and understand them. And then, you know, if I ever have any input, it's very stressful for me to give my opinions on some things, because I just keep always wondering, how is this going to come back and bite us in the rear? You know? But anyway, I did have one other question for you, and that is, I think I heard you say earlier that there were a few legislators who said, no, I don't want that authorization struck because I would like to have a turnpike in my area. You know, I've been up there many times talking with many different legislators, and none of them have ever said anything along those lines. And so it's not like our group or the citizens from Norman and Cleveland County or Tulsa or any of these places that are dealing with turnpikes right now, or over since, you know, even through the Driving Forward program. So you had all of Oklahoma City there too, Mustang, Yukon, all of that. Why did it never come into conversation with any of these legislators that, oh, hey, I would actually like to put a turnpike in my district as well? That has never been brought to my attention. And so I just think that's really strange. Like, what do you make of that? Have you ever heard anybody up there say, no, actually, I'd like to have a turnpike here?
Well, first of all, when we sat in Eddie Dempsey's office 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, he was anti, like, no OTA. And he was so into, like, making everything safer. So he has a lot of rural roads that don't have a lot of shoulders. So he was into, you know, helping his District 2 down there.
Is he Ada Durant?
He's Southeastern. He's Idabel, Broken Bow, all that stuff. And you know who the ODOT division engineer is down there?
Yeah, Joe Kelly's brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony Kelly.
So he was like, Amy, you know, you got to do this. I'm going to be your biggest supporter. And then all of a sudden this year on all of our bills, something flipped. He's not rerunning, but something happened. I don't know. He looks different. He speaks differently. And he said exactly what you said. He's like, I want this turnpike. I want this. Why are we taking this turnpike out of statute? It takes an act of God to get anything into bill. I don't want this turnpike struck. We have so many people crossing the Red River, want to cross the Red River in Oklahoma. Why are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Like, we should just leave all these authorizations in. It's not hurting anybody. And I'm going to pull
What?
that. Yeah, I'm going to pull that. That was from the previous committee. So I'm going to pull that, that video, and I'm going to put that in the Substack for this, when this one rolls, and you'll see that. And my hair was just like, because
So
he's never
okay.
said that to me in person.
Which of those authorizations is that he's talking about then? It's not 27. I need to put my glasses on. Is it
27,
this
but
one
then
down here?
you see this little stick down here, 4?
Uh-huh.
This is a lie, because if you read what 4 is the Indian nation, and they built it in 2 sections, the northern section and the southern section. But 4 says the Eastern Indian Nation Turnpike between Tulsa and Paris, Texas, including all or any of part thereof between McAllister and the Red River south of Hugo. So maybe that is actually, but they're changing it to be the Eastern Indian Nation Turnpike between Henrietta and Hugo. But originally, so he wants the bridge over the Red River is what he wants.
Okay. So I would say if you happen to be listening, or if you are listening and you know someone who lives in the vicinity. Now, when the Turnpike Authority uses the term vicinity, you have to understand that is, a 60-mile radius in their book. So if you know anybody who lives in the southeast quadrant of the state, anywhere near the border, they might want to go ahead and contact Dempsey and let them know how they would be harmed if this were to go through. Because I beg to differ, anytime there is an authorized route on the Turnpike Authority's authorized statutes, that puts people in harm's way. And so if they're not going to be built, if the Turnpike Authority has no feasibility to build it, then it should be removed. Because what I would like for people to understand as a property owner, if your house or your property is anywhere on any of those authorizations that you see on that map right there, what you need to know is, again, keep vicinity in mind. So give or take 20 miles in either direction, north, south, east, or west, and that is what could be impacted, okay? As long as your property is anywhere in the quote-unquote vicinity of any of those authorized statute and authorizations in statute, your house, your property is, well, it's being held hostage, essentially. Because you never know at what point in time they might try to come and build a turnpike. And guess what? They're not going to come knock on your door and say, so we're thinking about putting a turnpike here. It's been authorized for 45 years. The feasibility studies are from about 35 years ago. And we'd like to go ahead and move forward with that. How do you feel? They don't do that. They just hatch the plan and then present it. And they've already hired the engineering companies and paid them to start designing the roadway before they ever come to the citizens and say, hey, what do you think?
Yeah, so Tanner brings up a good point. Here's Hugo in Oklahoma, and straight south on Route 271 goes right into Paris, Texas. So I don't know what this guy, I don't know. And it's already there. Why do you need another bridge? I mean, where are you going to put it? You're going to put a parallel. Oh, wait, they're doing that on the Southern Extension. They're putting that only a half a mile from 77 and a half a mile from I-35 and the East-West Connector, a half a mile from I-240. They're supposed to be, what did they say in statute, 30 miles away? They can't be within 30 miles of a free interstate or something like that. That is nuts.
Well, so what it says is it's actually in the feasibility study, the CDM Smith study, and the traffic analysis, whatever all that stuff was. And it basically said one of the assumptions that the study took into account was that there wouldn't be any new free facilities that would compete with the new road they're trying to build that they're studying. So, but that doesn't, I mean, there's already a free road there, which is probably why the Turnpike Authority said it's not feasible, because they know that if they hired CDM Smith or any of these other consulting companies to put together a feasibility study, they would say, no, it's not feasible for you to build this right here because there is a free alternative in the vicinity. So nobody's going to drive it anyway.
Right. And you know what, Kelly? In the vicinity can even be a different town.
Yep.
Because the location authorization for the southern extension says a new turnpike and bridge or any parts thereof from a point in the vicinity of the city of Mustang south across the South Canadian River to the H.E. Bailey Turnpike in the vicinity of the city of Tuttle. And they built it 5 miles east of Tuttle. And then easterly across the South Canadian River to a point in the vicinity of the city of Norman. But yet the southern extension is going to Purcell.
Well, and east means west and north means south. And I mean, words don't mean anything to any of these people.
Yeah. I don't, we keep saying like vote these new people and vote these people, but I don't know, like we need a revolution or something. We need to to change the way government works somehow, because the fact that an average intelligence person can understand the problem that we're trying to explain. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. Oh, I do understand, but I can't control. I don't know how to make it stop, that they can't just do the right thing. And it doesn't show up on the ethics reports, like the money. I don't know if it's like a power thing. I don't know what's happening, but we need to find some more really good people up there that, like Annie Mentz, who totally dropped her name off this SB 80 bill when I told her about it, because she voted for it. She's like, Amy, I didn't even read the amendments. I didn't have time. And I was like, yeah, but okay, so always vote no. And she's like, this is ridiculous. So she's helping us with some of the amendments to this, and as is Representative Wilk, but I don't know.
Annie Mentz she's always been so receptive. Anytime I've spoken with her, she listens and she actually tries to understand what we're explaining to her. Yeah. So, I don't know. I have lots of questions.
I just want to know. I want to know what as a process person, as an engineer, I like to know what the actual process is, and the process seems to always change. So, like Kelly, if I wrote a bill, and then you're my partner on the other side, what, are you going to stab me in the back and totally change what I said, or are we like colluding behind doors? So you're going to help me get what I really want, but not what my citizens really want. Like, I don't even know what that relationship is like for a Senate author and a House author, because I've never seen this happen before. I would be ticked off if my House author or my Senate author did something completely different than what I wanted, or what my citizens wanted.
And if someone is, trying to manipulate you and behind closed doors and saying, look, I'm going to change this and you're going to be okay with it. Otherwise, I'm going to smear your name, or whatever these threats may be, is what I figure is happening. Or, hey, I'm going to vote for this and you vote for that, and then we both get what we want. I don't know what's going on like that, but it seemed, if it were me in those positions, I would say no, thank you. And then I would immediately go to my platform and I would say, just want everybody to know this is the conversation that was just had. And, that could put a stop, perhaps that could put a stop to this backdoor dealing, when you let the people know who's coming to you and trying to twist your arm and manipulate you. They try to call that bargaining. I call that manipulation. And that's abuse. That's abusing the system.
Yeah, I think
and it's not good for anybody.
Yeah, I definitely think more sunlight. Like Jim Shaw has been sunlighting a lot of the crazy committee discussions they've been having on Humanor and all the solar power stuff. And wow. And it's great because they're clipping it down into 30-second or 40-second clips so that people can understand what's going on. I think that we need to do more of that. And I'm not afraid to sunset to sunlight this stuff, but I feel like as long as they keep getting inundated by people calling and telling them what's going on, that they know we're watching, maybe that would make a difference, and not just 3 of us, like 100 of us.
Well, and just to clarify, when you say we should do this or wish we could do better of that, I assume you mean not necessarily Pike Off the organization, but just citizens in general. So
Citizens in
whether
general.
you're a turnpike fighter or not, whether you support or follow Pike Off or not, if you're just a citizen of the state of Oklahoma, this is something you need to be concerned about. And if you have the ability to shine a light on this, that would be great.
Yeah,
I assume is what you're.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we just have to keep it. We have to keep involved. Like I call about things other than turnpikes. I call about things when they want to meter my water well. I call about that. When they want to do crazy things that I don't agree with, I also call about that. So it's not just this, but this is the one that is so front and center because we're writing bills for this particular topic. But anyway, it was a crazy week. I'm going to put out 3 Substacks this week because I haven't done it for the last 3 podcasts we've done. So just check it out. I'm going to try to clip some of the video for you to watch it and see. And remember, it is election year. So pay attention. And if you have friends all over the state and you're watching a senator or representative from that part of the state, send it to your friend and tell them to vote for the other person. Because I haven't heard very much positive things on the floor committee meetings, or how they do business up there is pretty terrible. And so something has to change. We can force the change, but we have to stay involved.
Yeah. And take a look at that map. If you know anybody who lives in the vicinity of any of those authorizations, you should let them know that they could very easily find themselves in the crosshairs in the same situation that some of us are sitting in right now. And I can just tell you, it's been a limbo of unanswered questions and uncertainty about everything in your life. Like, you don't realize how much your home and your property dictate every area of your life. It determines where your kids go to school. It determines where you go to church. It determines, how close you are to your family members and your friends. You become connected to your community and your neighbors, that you can rely on them to come take care of your animals while you're out of town, and all of these things. Like, it is so, so important, and it's the central piece to every family and every human being. So you have to have your house, and to just not know where that house is going to be, if it's going to be, or if you're going to be forced to move for any amount of time, is stressful. But we're going on 4.5 years now and still no answers. And that's a tough place for everybody. I mean, I've graduated a kid from college all the way through.
And high school.
Yeah, I graduated high school, and now he's graduating in 3 weeks from college. And that's absolutely nuts. So,
yeah.
But thank you, Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, for my kiddo wanted to go into engineering, and now he said, no, I think law. Yeah. So he's headed off to law school in the fall, which is, we need to get him through faster, put him on the fast track to law school, get that going. Let's go.
That's right.
So anyhow, well, I don't really have anything this morning. I have absolutely enjoyed listening to you go into detail about the shenanigans up at the Capitol for this week, and I bet
hopefully there'll be shenanigans this week, but it'll be citizen protective shenanigans this week. So we hope that we can report next Monday that it passed through the House with the amendments and will be put into law. But we're gonna contact you, so stay in touch with us, and we're gonna need you to fire off some emails and make some phone calls, and it'll only take you 2 to 5 minutes. Please do that for us.
Yeah.
When we put the call, I'll put out a Substack once we know for sure.
For sure.
Okay.
Right. Well,
everybody have a good week.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the Right of Way Report, a podcast by Pike Off OTA. You can join us here every Monday morning at 10 a.m., where we will bring you updates on legislation, litigation, and landowner information.